What's up everyone? I'm currently working on a tutorial for Terminal Velocity, which is just released by John Petrucci. Now in this process, I'm not ready yet, so I need to think of a video for this week, but what I realized is that what I do to figure out music is not necessarily the easiest thing to figure out unless you're being kind of guided. So today's video is essentially going to be about a few different ways that you can approach how to figure out music yourself. And with that, I'm actually going to give you a live demonstration of how I do it, a few techniques I use with a Periphery song. And that Periphery song is It's Only Smiles. Okay, now I'm only going to do a very short amount of it because once you get the idea, it's pretty easy to go on. So before I get my guitar out, there are a few tools that will really help you understand what needs to be done. And these are a few things that are quite common in music that I found as a guitarist I avoided for quite a while, and then the better I get at those things, the more knock-on effects it has throughout my entire playing. So the first thing I'm going to mention is ear training. The more developed your ear is, the easier it is for you to hear different intervals, different jumps, different chords, blah, 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 blah. The easier it is for you to figure out pretty much anything you hear. If you have trouble identifying what a pentatonic scale is, it's going to make your life a lot harder, because equally, if you have trouble distinguishing between major and minor chords or major and minor scales, it's going to make your job a lot harder. Now, fortunately, there's many ways to practice this. One is just to get whatever it is. Say you're like, I don't know how to pick a minor chord. Play a minor chord, then play a major chord, then play a different minor chord and play a different major chord, and just keep playing between the two, right? Start guessing, listen to music. Like, oh, this song sounds sad to me. Okay, sad is probably minor. So now I'm going to get up a chord chart and figure out why, or what chords in the progression are minor and why that affects the rest of the music. In addition to that, the more that you practice, the more other people's music you learn, you're going to start knowing these things. What you'll find is, especially if you're taking on a lot of the stuff that's on this channel, your ability is already where you're covering a lot of scales, even if you don't know that that's the type of stuff you're doing. Yngwie Malmsteen, for example, is a great example of someone who uses harmonic minor a lot. It's very rare that he doesn't use harmonic minor, and it gives him his Yngwie sound. The next thing I'm going to mention is theory. So I know for guitarists, theory is a pretty hard thing to sink your teeth into. It's hard for everyone, and the reason that guitarists don't like doing it is because we've got our ego attached to not wanting to learn something because we need to build a new skill set out of it. And I'm a guitarist, it sucks, but when you chip away a little bit at theory, and then all of a sudden it opens doors, more connections are made, and the more you chip away, the more connections you make, the more you understand that now you're able to communicate through this. Say whatever song you're trying to figure out is in E minor, if you know that that's the scale that it's in, you can pretty accurately guess where the music is moving. Then after you've done that, the next thing that will help you probably the most would be familiarity with that specific guitarist style. So for example, when I was in high school, there was a new John 5 album that came out, and there was a song on it called The Judas Cradle. There was no tab book. Very few people were interested in tabbing that out, and I was a 17, 18-year-old trying to I loved the song, and I'm like, I'm gonna figure this out. I know 10 other of his songs. I kind of know a few of the things that he's doing. And sure enough, because I was familiar with his style, there was many similar things that he does in a lot of different songs. So it's like, okay, I know that technique. All I need to do is figure out where that is on the neck, and then everything's fine. This next part is probably the most necessary out of everything that I've mentioned, and that is software. Back in the day when the lecturers at my university in the 60s were trying to figure out, or maybe 70s and 80s were trying to figure out the music that they loved, they had a record player, and they put their finger on the record player and they slowed the machine down so that it would play everything that they need to play slower so they could figure it out. That is pretty painful. I'm really glad that I was born in the 90s and I don't have to deal with that. But with that in mind, use those tools. When I talk about programs, I talk about DAWs, or digital audio workstations, right? I hate calling them that because, I don't know, I just don't like it. I personally use Ableton. but it is an expensive program. I mean, I use it every single day, so it's very worth it for me to buy it. There are free versions. So for example, I think GarageBand is free on Mac. I know Audacity is free on both Windows and Mac. I'm convinced that there's plenty of free other versions of these types of programs. I used for many years, I used Cool Edit Pro. I then went to something, I think it was called Acoustica or something. I then went to Pro Tools, and then I moved to Ableton, and Ableton was kind of the best of all worlds for me, and it's allowed me a lot of freedom to be able to create music for years now. But it really depends on what you need it for. So I remember I didn't use Audacity because when I found Audacity, I'd already had a bit of experience with these types of things, and the problem that I had with Audacity back nearly 10 years ago was that when you slow the music down, it pitches down as well. So if you slow something to half speed, it's an octave lower. Now that's just, in my opinion, that's just no good. We want something that stays at the same pitch so we can play exactly the right thing, just slower. So Ableton does that really well, does it really easily, and it's just one of the many things that I use with Ableton. Now, I'm not advocating for you to buy Ableton. It's an expensive program. These features are found in many other things. Just find one that works for you. And all that is that it can slow down the music, and when you slow it down, it maintains the pitch. So it's not like a tape or a record slow down. So, where it just stays at the same pitch, just goes slower, okay? Another really important thing is if you can get a video of the person who wrote the song playing it, use any tool you can to help yourself learn the song, because why make it harder for yourself? What you want to do in learning other people's songs is learn their techniques, learn what they do. Because once you learn what they do, then you can apply that to what you do. And that's how we all get our own sound, is by combining all of the people that inspire us. And that becomes our flavor. It's not our personality, it's our experience from all these different things, connecting the dots that no one else has connected before. And that's what we want to do. I'll link to everything that I've listed below. I'm going to show you me figuring out how I approach figuring out this song, It's Only Smiles, I think. And once again, I've only listened to 18 seconds of the song. So, and in that, I was like, yeah, I can use this song as an example. This is how foreign the song is to me. I don't even know what tuning it's in. So I'm literally going to go from, this is the first time I've heard the song and I need to figure it out. I'm only going to figure out a little bit, so I won't waste too much of your time, but just so you get an idea. All right. And then in the next couple of weeks, I will have terminal velocity up, fully done. I've already figured it out. I'm just piecing it together, learning it, making sure that I'm getting it right, comparing with the video, blah, blah, blah. All right. Now, I am hideously out of tune for one. I don't know what tuning this song's in. So I'm going to flick over to the YouTube and show you just kind of the normal process that I go through. All right. So first couple of seconds, I can tell straight away that we're in a major key. Where it's Ionian, Lydian, or any Mixolydian, anything like that. I don't yet know, but we're in a major key. God, he has a lot of PRSs. Oh, I've just realized he's got a 7 string. But so, what's his first note? Okay, so we're in E flat. I'll just confirm that. God, that's a really genty sound. So we're in E flat. I'm just going to get tuned up to there, so I'll skip when I'm done. So we're back. I'm in tune. And what do we got? So we know he's playing around the 12th fret. I can pretty much assume that he's either doing or... Right, now this comes from me knowing that we're in a major key, me being able to see here on the screen that he's hanging around the 12th fret and knowing that it's clearly he's playing a major riff. Now, how I know it's major is because the third note in the scale dictates what key we're in. So in this case, G sharp. If we play the E major 1, 2, 3, and that third note there is the major. And now, by the looks of things, his pinky's hanging there, and once again, we've only heard that little sound bite from the start. Something like that. So let's just roll back and see what happens. Alright, so yeah, now I need to listen to it again because I've never heard this song before, so I'm just getting familiar. So one thing that's here that I will show you right now is, sorry, I'm having to look over the screen because the camera's in the way, but right now, because I'm really not familiar with this and it's moving quite quickly as Periphery does, I'm just going to use the YouTube feature here. Now this, what I was talking about before in your DAW, you want this feature in there, but if you can't do that, you can't be bothered, you can't figure it out, whatever, YouTube has this feature in the little cog with playback speed. So you can do 25, 50 and 75%. The advantage of having a DAW is you can do it by 10% increments or 5% increments. So you can play a whole song 10% slower and it'll sound good, and you can just practice like that, increase it until you're getting it to speed or even above speed. So I'm going to put this at 50% and see what happens. So let's press the button. This is the part where it gets a bit hard. YouTube's options for going slow are nowhere near as good as Ableton's, so it gets really grainy and kind of pretty difficult to hear. But we're getting a pretty good idea of what's going on. Okay, that's the first part I know. Alright, now I'm going to listen to it at speed just so that I can get a better idea, because I kind of can't really hear what's going on with this YouTube slowness. I'll just take it back up to speed and then get a better idea of how it's supposed to sound at the end. Alright, so now I've finally got it, and this was a bit hard because there was one step that I missed out to tell you earlier, and it's one step that I didn't do today, and this was specifically because, I don't know, it's just when I'm working towards a song like Terminal Velocity, basically the first thing that I want to do is familiarize myself with it. So what is the chorus, what's the bridge, what's the whatever. This song I'd never heard before, so it's totally brand new to me. So every single thing that comes up, I'm like, I don't know much Periphery, so this is just kind of like, oh, okay, this is what's going on. I have no idea what to expect when it comes to these guys. So, but effectively all those principles were in use. You know, once again, I identified that it was major very quickly, so that puts specific parameters or specific sounds that I'm going for. You know, and then it's just a case of getting familiar with it, slowing it down. I had to slow it down a lot more than I normally would because I had to understand what the rhythms were doing, and because it is quite fast. So in a nutshell, the riff, which I'm going to play it really poorly because I've only just figured it out, but this is the type of thing of when you figure it out, then you start moving forward. So you make sure that you understand it, you make sure where it's coming from, where it's going to, and then you end up getting everything right. Right, slowing down right at the end because those rhythms get a bit weird, and once again, I'm just not familiar enough. There's a few advantages of going different options. So as I noticed when I slowed down YouTube's version, it got really grainy. It became really hard to understand what was going on because it's just like the sound quality is degraded so much. Now you may get Audacity and this sound quality may degrade a lot to the point where you can't hear it. And unfortunately, that is an actual problem. So, you know, the more you slow it down, the more you are going to degrade the quality. And if the quality is really bad to start with, then you're going to slow it down and just destroy it. And it may be too fast, but you just can't figure it out. And for that reason, what I do highly recommend is just get used to playing whatever. So if you're listening to the radio, you're sitting watching TV, when you're practicing, you're watching YouTube, doesn't matter. Any song that comes on, just get used to playing it. So like, say Raw by Katy Perry comes on the radio, just play along with it. If that gets boring, play around with other stuff. Do a harmony. So instead of... The point is just play around, be real about where you're beginning. So if you're at a point where it's really difficult to do any of this, start on really simple songs. Figure them out. Play with them. Slow them down. Do whatever you need to do to get started. And then as you get better and better, and as you learn more and more, start including more things. You know, start trying to identify the stuff without the guitar. For example, in that John Petrucci song that I'm currently learning, there's loads of pentatonic runs. There's a part... You know, I heard that immediately. I'm like, well, that's a pentatonic run. It just depends on where he plays it on the neck. You know, and then I watched the video and I'm like, okay, he plays it there, and then I know exactly what's happening. Yeah, so I hope that's helped shed some light. I'd be really happy if you started, you know, worked on a few things and found some stuff that actually really worked well for you. Go forth, my pretties, and do what you need to do. Practice everything that you can. I've got Terminal Velocity coming up very soon. And as always, as every YouTuber ever has said, like it if you like it, don't if you don't, subscribe if you haven't, and I don't know, send this video to your mum or something, just like prank her with my videos so I get more hits. And then, yeah, leave any questions in the comments, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Thank you. Bye.